maple to the east of my building, I have not touched it. It's virgin from the. So I just want to know why I give forewarning. Yeah, I'm going to have a lot of wood there. You have to cut branches to get to the branches. You don't block them out. You don't go up there and just pick and choose which one you want. It's not that easy. And this is BS. I was just like, what the heck, man? I gave everybody forewarning. I've talked to both of these guys.
Okay, so you're saying that...
Over 2 months ago.
So you're talking about separate of our regular pickups, you made a phone call and asked...
Yeah, what I should do and how I should stack them. And I stacked them the way they told me to stack them.
And were you asking for an exception to be made, or was this...
That's what I'm being told, that they're saying that I'm like supposed to be treated, I'm being above other people or something. But then I said, oh, let's hold up for a minute. I have 2 acres. I have more than 2 trees than the average person in this town. And I pay high taxes. And then I played the card, I'm a veteran, you can't help me out. I asked for help. Didn't I ask you for help like 2 or 3 times? No answer?
No.
When you and I got irate, didn't I ask you, I need help? Then I played the card. I cleaned the tree up out front here during the derecho. I fixed the street sign. I fixed the 2 street signs over by me. And Julie and I, for some reason, went over and cleaned the park. And he kind of told me not to do it. I wish I wouldn't have done it now. I won't ever do it again, because you fooled me once. I won't be fooled twice. So I just want to know why I can't be
Are you
treated.
going to let me answer?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Because number one, half the debris that you have out there isn't derecho related, and we're not letting anybody, we're not going and picking anybody else's up that isn't derecho related.
So you want me to go around and spray paint every piece that's on
Let him
the
talk.
tree, Jamie?
Let him talk. Otherwise, I'm going to have you removed. You want answers, let Chris give you an answer.
We treat you the same way that we treat everybody else in town. You pay the same tax rate, regardless if you're on 2 acres or not, as everybody else in town. It's the same levy rate. We said if it was derecho related, we would come and pick it up, just like we have everybody else. The only difference right now between going around, we don't go around to every neighborhood anymore. You have to fill out a request for action. We did tell you the same exact stuff. And you're sitting here and you just said you have to cut limbs to get up to some of the dead ones. That's fine. What you have out there is much more than that. All Eldon asked, and my apologies for being out of the office last Friday, but I will come on and take a look at it tomorrow. If it's derecho related, we will come pick it up. If it's not, you have to figure out how to get it out to the site. We'll still take it. But we're not treating you any different than anybody else. And the reason I told you to get out of the park when you were up there is, number one, you didn't sign a release. Number two,
I admit that, Chris. I will never do it again. I learned my lesson.
I'm not doing this with you.
Well,
You think you've been wrong in the
guys. Drive by my house, stop and visit me. We could take a walk around if you want to look at what trees are all derecho. I said there's 51 trees. What do you want me to do? It's 13 or 14 trees with damage. I've already taken down 2. There's one that came down during the storm, so that's gone. And there's 3. I admitted to you that there was 3 with hatch boards in it. But I tried working a deal out. I'll keep all the trunks and everything 4 inches and bigger. So it's less wear and tear and less work for you guys. And I'm going to try, because I believe in recycling stuff. And
that's fine, Jay, but if I work out a deal with you, then I have to work out a deal with everybody. And I have to account for all of this back to FEMA in order to get a reimbursement.
Well, I saw something happen across the street that I was part of, and you came over and cleaned it all up. And it wasn't on, I play that little ball game too. It wasn't on city property.
The evergreens that were right across the street?
No, that other tree that fell down. The one with the porcupine shit on it. That wasn't, I don't get it.
Okay, Jake, what else do you have?
I want to know, since you guys own this property now, us as taxpayers, is there a possibility in the future of putting a retention pond out back here to try and control the water system?
No, because unless this gets hooked up to sewer, that's where our leach field is.
I know where your leach field is. I've measured it myself. Well, what about my leach field? My leach field's right up to that, where that stream area is too, that when the water comes in the heavy rain falls. So why can't we both be treated the same.
I don't know how we're treating you differently.
We're getting heavier rains, we're breaking records, something's going on with our weather system now. And I'm sitting here going, I have to worry every spring, is my septic gonna back up? Because the ground's so saturated. But the last 2 years, we've gotten lucky, it hasn't been that way. But we've had years and periods where it has been wet.
And I'm not.
So why can't the city even look into possibly buying some Hoffman Producers land then and put that over there? So then it would take care of a lot of the water issues on this side of town, on the north side of the tracks.
We don't build them to begin with. If there is a,
Well, why are they putting them over there in that, what is that, new Wolf
they're
Edition?
paying for them.
Yeah, they are. But I was here before all that was started. And my place was built before all the heavy rains.
You bought the house knowing about where it sits.
No, we didn't. Hoffman fooled us. But that's why Kenny got what he got. I call that reciprocating or whatever happened to him.
All right, thanks, Jim. All right, is there anything else?
No, I just wish you guys would all look at people the same way and treat us all fair.
I would like to address the council. Okay, move on to the consent agenda. Item 1, approval of council minutes for the November 1, 2021 council meeting. Anybody have any questions that would like to entertain a motion?
Make a motion to approve the agenda of the minutes from the last council meeting.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, ordinance 11-15-2021A, providing that general property taxes levied and collected each year on certain property located within the Stonebrook urban renewal area in the city of Mount Vernon, county of Lynn, state of Iowa, by and for the benefit of the state of Iowa, city of Mount Vernon, county of Lynn, Mount Vernon Community School District, and other taxing districts to be paid to a special fund for payment of principal and interest on loans, monies, advanced to and indebtedness, including bonds issued or to be issued, incurred by the city in connection with the Stonebrook urban renewal area. Chris, anything to add to that motion?
No.
Council, any questions? Obviously, we've been through a number of these, otherwise entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of ordinance 11-15-2021A, providing general property taxes levied in the county of Lynn. Stonebrook Urban Renewal District.
I will second.
Any further comments? Roll call, please.
West,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Roundabush,
Yes.
Weisler.
Yes.
All right, next item, resolution 11-15-2021A, approving transfers for fiscal year 2021-2022. Chris?
So this is the first, which will probably be 2 or 3 transfer resolutions throughout the year, but as you can see, we have to account for the funds where they come in. So if franchise fees come in as franchise fee, we account for them, and then we have to transfer them from that account to CIP or whatever program we're trying to pay for. So a majority of this is just moving money from one fund to another to offset or pay for purchases, or in this case, the two major projects are construction projects.
Anybody have any questions? As Chris mentioned, pretty routine in nature.
That being said, I'll move approval of resolution 11-15-2021A, approving transfers for fiscal year 21 to 22.
I'll second this step.
Any further comments? Roll call, please.
Weisler,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Roundabush,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
All right, next item on motions for approval, item 1, consideration of claims list. Any questions on the claims list?
I'll make a motion to approve the claims list.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 2, discussion consideration of COVID-related issues, policies. Anybody have any questions, concerns?
The number was back down to 1.14 this morning. 7-day positivity rate of 9 in our area code.
School district has a meeting tomorrow night about what they're gonna do in 60 days or 30 days, whatever, in December, I think it is.
That's my understanding. So they implemented the mask requirement in the elementary until such time as the vaccines were offered for that age group. Now that they are, the rollout, I think, is maybe a little bit slower than what they had initially projected. So I think it's just an open conversation. So.
All right, nothing further, we'll move on to item 3, discussion and consideration of housing, Commission Highway 30 bypass area housing concept. Chris?
So I don't want to steal the thunder of any of the housing commission members that are here tonight, but they've been kind of self-tasking themselves with coming up with recommendations based upon information from staff. So that what we put back in front of them is if we start to see development, especially in that bypass area, what particularly are we shooting for? And if we're going to approach developers about developing in that area, who should we be approaching for what types of projects? So the Housing Commission has been working on that. They've submitted a report. Staff concurs with their recommendation and believe it's a solid move going forward. The next question will be, we're still kind of in the waiting period for our application for the LMI senior housing. If that happens to fall through, then the question that will come back in front of the council is, do we try to tackle one of these, not necessarily one of these recommendations, but how do we, looking at a program like that, so the other things that we've talked about are, can we do a down payment assistance program to help implement some of these recommendations as well. So there's some things that we can do. But these are definitely, if you, about halfway through the page, there's 3 bullet points. Those are probably the most significant types of questions that I get from a housing perspective. Lack of senior housing for individuals that are wanting to get out of their houses. Basically no basements for the most part, it seems little. There's a pretty big price gap in between leaving your house and then getting in a $3,000 or $400,000 condo. So looking at stuff like that, and then of course we talked about this before, and one of the issues with the creation of the Housing Commission is Mount Vernon is not overly affordable for young families starting out. So how do we tackle that problem with developers as well? But there are members of the Housing Commission here, and again, I don't want to overstep my boundaries here. We've had a lot of conversations. So.
Does anybody have any questions? Obviously, we have the report in front of us. Is there anything that jumped out or sparked any questions?
When I read it, I felt like it was completely in line with the bypass plan and also the comprehensive plan. I agree with that statement.
Chris, I did have one question, and it's more logistical than anything else. On the first page, you mentioned a MV housing concept PDF that I'm assuming was linked maybe in the original email, or is that the 2 pages of imagery at the end of it?
It was linked in.
Okay. Would it be possible to send that out to us directly? Or send it to Chris and have?
I probably have it, I just, when I printed it off,
Okay.
I didn't probably click on it, so I can forward it on to you.
Okay.
Aren't those the 2 graphics that are in our packet?
I guess that's
That's what I assumed that they were, the 2 graphs or the 2
29 and 30.
images that are at the end there. These look like they came out of the.
I'll verify before I send it.
Okay, all right.
They are.
That was just my one bit of curiosity there, but I would agree with Stephanie that everything here is in line with, I think, the intent of the master plan as well, and the bypass, as well as the recommendation, I believe it was last December, whenever that was put in place, so.
Chris, I know it's still early, have we had anybody snooping around, anything?
Vaguely. I mean, nothing that I would feel really confident about. A lot of concepts. We've had a couple groups from Iowa City come up and have a conversation, but it was like 2 or 3 months ago, and I haven't heard boo since, which isn't, it's not normal. There's a lot of work that goes behind it, and they stay pretty secretive until they can secure ground and do things like that. So I heard a lot. I mean, I think last week I heard that Fiscal was going to start building next month, and I said that's pretty surprising since they haven't gone through the site plan process. Well, 1 month is probably not doable, but I just smile. And, we've had feelers out there for sure, and make no mistake that what's going on in Stonebrook and Spring Meadows with Scobin is not going unnoticed. They're selling homes at a rate, I believe, slightly higher than what they predicted.
A lot of the work of the Housing Commission, and, I know they haven't had a lot of results, positive results, tangible results yet, but it's a process we need to keep going through, and I think the flywheel effect will hit once we get some traction there and get going. Hope it'll take off, but this is, fits within our scheme. This is part of our culture. This is a void that we have in our community now. So I hope we do get this take off with some effect.
We don't really need any motion for this, do we? We have to accept the report, or?
Accept the report. I would make a motion to accept the report. That way it becomes a document that staff can utilize,
Okay.
then recognized by the council.
So I'll move that we accept the report from the Housing Commission as presented in the agenda today.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks to everyone for that fantastic report. We'll certainly keep our fingers crossed. Item 4, next item, discussion consideration of the annual Cedar Rapids Metro Economic Alliance membership. Chris?
So I was going to pay this. This was within my allotment, but it's new enough, and I just wanted to represent to the council to make sure that you're still okay with it. I'm happy. I know it's very difficult when you pay into an organization like this to see results because they're typically not tangible. But between the monthly emails and then the phone calls, they have actually been over here with one company within the last 4 months. So I see things that I can tangibly put out there. And for $3,500, it's pretty inexpensive, just to add to kind of our repertoire of economic development.
Plus, by the nature of this kind of work, it takes time to do
Yes.
that. And so I support it. I think it's a good idea to keep it up.
That sounds like a motion to me.
Sure, I'll make a motion to what do we want to say? Rejoin the annual Cedar Rapids Metro Economic Alliance.
And I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, discussion consideration of extraction equipment for the Mount Vernon Fire Department.
So their fire department is basically kind of phasing out outdated equipment. This is, well, I'm going to use what I'm familiar with. My wife will probably chastise me when I get home, but like Jaws of Life type materials that they carry on their rescue rigs, obviously have a shelf life, so they're looking to replace that equipment. They did get a fairly sizable donation of $4,500 to help offset some of the cost, but nice part about the fire department, it has a dedicated capital improvement levy with a decent amount of money in there right now. It only usually gets depleted when you're buying a vehicle, so I concur with this, and I'm thankful that Nate is trying So minus the 45, and I've had a conversation with Nate just to say, was the $4,500 directly towards this equipment or to the fire department? I just want to make sure they have almost 200,000 in that levy, so whether or not they want to use that 4,500. So it could fluctuate basically anywhere from just under 20,000 down, but
I just want to make sure whoever makes the motion that they.
yeah, I would say not to exceed 19.4.
Well, in that case, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve the purchase of the extraction equipment by the fire department, not to exceed the total of $19,400.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, discussion consideration of turf tank automated GPS field sprayer agreement.
So this is something came out of my kids' activity. So I was actually out at Tuma in Cedar Rapids, and I happened to notice this little R2D robot like driving around out on Tuma's field. And I'm like, what was that thing doing out there? Turns out it was spraying all of the fields. So it's a GPS unit. They set up one antenna, and they no longer have to spend 2 or 3 days marking all of the individual corners that they have out there. They just put it in the GPS unit, and the thing remembers, and then it goes and sprays. Not only does it cut down on the amount of spray, because it doesn't use as much paint, but staff can basically go out there, turn it on, let it go for 4.5 hours before they come back out there, change the battery, and let it go another 4.5 hours. So we can do an entire day worth of spraying on all of our locations, up to 42 different sizes, fields, and not necessarily have to spend any staff time doing it outside of that stuff. So there's a little tablet that comes with it, and pre-program it. We can spray our ball diamonds initially with paint and then use chalk over top of that just so that they're set. But I do have a video. I'm trying to get it off my phone to show you exactly what it is. But it really looks like a unit that's about yay big and yay tall on 4 wheels, but it will drive itself to spray.
I do like the idea of Vernon School District and Cornell.
Yeah, so our goal is to, get the unit here and potentially utilize that equipment and then invite the local school district and Cornell over and see if there's any partnership that, may want to happen. But for us, saving the time, not necessarily having to potentially hire a seasonal person to offset some of those hours.
Chris, have you put numbers on paper in terms of, how many hours are actually projected? I don't disagree with it in theory, but for the $10,000 a year, I just have to know that.
So yes, so one seasonal employee is roughly $4,000 to $6,000 a summer for us, depending on when they start and when they stop. So if we eliminate one seasonal employee, that's $4,000 to $6,000 right off the bat. I will tell you that it takes 2 to 3 public works employees at the beginning of the spring season to mark out all of the fields. That's finding all the lap pins, so on and so forth. And it takes 2 to 3 employees, 3 to 4 days to do that. But then they spray them about once a week. So we put
That's what I was going to ask, is how often they have to do that.
So we do put a retardant in there to keep so basically where we spray, the grass does not grow quite as fast, and when we mow over it, it lasts a little bit longer. But again, 2 weeks is about as long as we typically get. Now this year, completely different story because the grass didn't grow. We didn't have to spray quite as much, but on any other given year, it's at least once a week, if not twice a week, especially in the springtime. And then the other part to that is Matt has wildly successful programs, and they're at different times throughout the year, and they're all over the place. So at Bryant Park, we'll have, what do you call it? The smaller little square fields out of Bryant.
What do I call them?
But it's not T-ball
Glass ball?
though. Last ball?
Last ball.
Last ball's at Elliott, but T-ball's out at Bryant.
Right. So we have, the nice part is we can pre-program all 42 of the fields that we use. And like I said, just go to each park, set up the antenna, and basically turn the robot on, the reason we looked at this scenario is it's basically $11,000 a year. If we don't get to the types of use out of it that we think we are, then we don't have to continue with it. Otherwise, it's $45,000, I think, to buy out, right?
So if we paid the 10,000 for the first year, is there an option to apply that 10,000 to the 45,000 if we fall in love with
It's
it?
basically,
Kind of a rent zone.
it is kind of a rent zone over a 5-year period. So the 11,500, they gave us paint as well, so, essentially that's exactly what we're kind of doing. I felt like we're not gonna have to try and sell this unit, if we need to, but it's a younger company, but they said the city of Denver has how many now?
The city of Denver has, well, they right now have 16 when they want 32 by the time.
Yeah.
32 individuals.
So,
Or
yeah.
units, yeah.
So it's a growing company. The nice part is, the other part to it is, so for instance, if our unit does happen to go down and we're waiting for them to fix our unit, we can actually go and get Cedar Rapids unit and come out and utilize it. It's all pre-programmed and vice versa. So, and if they have to do that, if they call us up and say, hey, Cedar Rapids unit's down, can we borrow yours? They'll give us a whole pallet of paint for us letting them borrow it. So there's some other like non-tangible things that I think will work in our favor, but the unit itself, I would say, kind of be conservative, I would say in 3 months for sure, it would pay for itself. I think it would probably pay for itself in the first month and a half.
I'd say this would be getting a car from the Orbs, but if school district and Cornell was interested, then one unit be enough.
I think so, depending on, the caveat to that would be, I'm not sure that they put that same retardant in their paint. So, they might end up using it a little bit more, but if all 3 entities ended up borrowing it, or utilizing it and splitting it in thirds, I think we would be fine. This painted an entire flag football field. That's the video I have in 17 minutes. Without, and basically, yeah, and all they did was put it on, pre-programmed it and put it right where it wanted to, and I
And
felt kind of embarrassed that
no offense to Eldon, but the lines were
we're
straight.
straight. I mean, the guys do it really.
And they did a really good job.
But I was not even denying that.
I saw them. Honestly, another big factor that seems really trivial is the paint. The fact that we're using less product for one is a big thing. However, this year we had a hard time getting paint. They're guaranteeing to get us paint, and it's stuff that's applicable to the machine. So if we fall into another season like we did this year and we can't get product, they're guaranteeing that we're going to get it. So.
And cleaning it too was more simple than.
Yeah, and it is really simple. It is a very simple gadget.
I mean, I'm envisioning a painting Roomba. Is that effectively?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much,
Well,
yeah.
I'm envisioning one for the parking, street.
Well, that's
Well,
I mean,
You said the same thing. You guys are sitting on a gold mine here if you can figure out how to paint streets and things like that. But, yeah, if you're a Star Wars buff, picture like some of those little rectangle units. I mean, that's exactly what this thing looks like.
I'd be curious to see the video.
Well, Matt, maybe you can have a naming contest for it.
Pardon me? What was that?
I just said maybe
Name our
you could
unit.
have a fun naming contest for.
Oh,
for
yeah.
what-
This is gonna be Eldon's baby.
But don't
Well,
let
I guess
Eldon
it
name
would be, yeah.
Don't let Eldon and his guys name it, Lord knows.
Just trying to go back.
No,
Well, you're the contest guy.
Yeah. I'll think of a name for it.
Council, any further questions? Megan?
I think whatever trying, Cornell and the school district we're in,
Yeah.
but if it's a good investment, for $10,000, and we'll hopefully get some more partners, I'll go ahead and make a motion to go ahead with this one unit and see how it goes. That's my motion.
I'll second with a caveat that I would like to Chris's point, and it being a rent-to-own kind of scenario. I would be very interested to see numbers at the end of 1 year. Just what we spent on that, what we spent on paint, how fast, and, just all of that breakdown. But I'll go ahead and second Tom's motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, discussion and consideration of Mount Vernon City Planner job description. Chris?
So this has always kind of been in the works, and I don't want to say about a year ago when we talked about or discussed some other movement in both parks and police. The last portion of my memo dealt with the city planner. So Mount Vernon is never going to have a need, at least probably not in my tenure. It's never going to have a need to have both an associate planner and a city planner, but I do like the flexibility of being able to hire one or the other. So if I bring in an associate planner, a very good employee, and I want to be able to promote them, then the city planner position is there. They just vacate the associate planner and go right into the city planner. If we go through the hiring process and somebody walks through my door that would fit the city planner's position, we can hire them right at the city planner without trying to figure out how to hire somebody outside of, the existing job description. So we've always wanted to create the city planner job. And really what it amounts to is after a 2-year period, planners become, it's kind of like an officer that becomes certified. After that 2-year period, they can become a certified planner. They can represent the city on a lot more issues, so they become valuable. And so that's exactly what's happened in our situation. And in an effort to obviously keep somebody that I don't want to have to try and replace, I'm asking to make that move now. So you'll see there's 2 different motions. One is to approve the city planner position, and the second then is to appoint Laura Eckles as the city planner at a salary.
It'd be nice to see when you guys do this, the pay range, I understand, but it'd be nice to show the loaded pay rate, because that's deceptive. People look at that, well, 45, 57, yeah, it's all right. But I'd like to see also all the benefits kind of put in there too, so people of the city see that there's a lot more that goes to it than just the salary range there. Because I know that you guys make pretty good as far as benefits go, and the people should know it too, so that they know that, yeah, maybe it's a modest, but they also get a pretty good benefit too. So it would be nice to see that in there, because like I said, it's kind of deceptive. Is it 57? No, it's more than that. The city's paying more than that, based on health care, time off, all the other stuff. So that's just something I'd like to, as a citizen, I'd like to see in there, because it's deceptive. But other than that, I'm fine.
Kind of gone down this road with fire, with Nate Goodlow and his staff there, the police department, kind of the fire department years ago, and recognizing that we want a level of expertise, we got to pay for that level of expertise, and we're getting that with Nate. We've got that, I mean, we're, and his assistants and so on, the fire department. We've had this discussion multiple times on the police side, and sometimes we lose officers because of salary, sometimes we retain them and we have internal promotions and so on. So I think this is fairly similar to those practices that we've had, and That's why I'm not gonna balk at something like this, and if this is the right thing to do, if you think that this is the appropriate job description, I'm not gonna micromanage the job description here. I mean, you know that better than what should be on it, and what shouldn't be on it. But I would support the endorsement.
I do as well, and I want to separate this comment from any personal, specific comments. But Chris, one thing that I think, and you probably have thought through this, starting someone in this role at over the midpoint might make it a challenge when it comes to increases and having some, where to move. That's my own question.
Yeah, I think
It's typical, typically people start at the low to mid when they enter a new role.
yes, and so, part of the challenge here was, and this is my fear overall with Mount Vernon, and this is going to be the struggle. How do we keep salaries close enough that people are willing to stay, or good people are willing to stay here and not make the move to Cedar Rapids? So there's been some movement in the Cedar Rapids planning office, and the starting salary for an individual position like this is 55. So how close can I get and still keep the person here? To be quite honest with you, again, an associate planner, if I can keep them for 2 years, and I've said this from the very start, if I keep them for 2 years, I'm doing really good. On a city planner position, if I can keep them for a total of 5 years, so let's just say, I'm hoping that Laura stays longer, but if I could keep Laura for 5 years, then I've done pretty good. This is not the end of any discussion at all. We're going to be talking about this with the police department here really soon. My concern, and I said this at the very beginning, if you remember when the state made the changes to the collective bargaining system, that I was afraid that this was going to start an arms race, and it has. And it's not just the Cedar Rapids, Hiawatha, Marion that I'm concerned with now. I've got places like Independence and Manchester that are offering signing bonuses. Never in my wildest dreams would I ever expect a public or government body to offer signing bonuses. And I'm witnessing that now. So
let me, given what you just said, do you feel that that's the right range? Does our max need to be raised?
no, the range is, for a community of 4,500 people, is where it needs to be.
Okay.
And if you look at some of the salary information that we'll look at before we get into the next negotiation, you're going to see that we are typically 25 to 50%, so we're below 50% of most of our counterparts in the metro, which from a population standpoint is exactly right where we're going to be. So we're going to lose people. I'm just trying to keep the gap close. And again,
I get it, I just know.
yeah, no, it's a struggle because realistically, I can't come to you and say that that range should be exactly what Cedar Rapids' range is, because that just pushes everybody else. So the range I feel is right. It's just we're going to bump up to that max quicker. And again, realistically, if I can give them 5 years, they probably won't bump up to that max. If they stay longer, then I figure I'll probably work out that problem if I get there.
In 3 to 5 years, then this range will change.
Yeah,
It's going to increase.
correct.
Right,
So,
okay, thank you for that.
any further questions?
I was just gonna say, given that, I will move to approve the position of city planner 1 based on the draft description.
Yeah, and I'll support it as well.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, discussion consideration of appointing Laura Eccles as the Mount Vernon planner. Anything else to add, Chris?
I do not.
Now you got another, diagram of a subdivision, if you will. I haven't been up to Myers Meadows up there, or Scotland is, and there were like 5 new basements in like 2 weeks. And it looks like 17th Avenue is ready to pave. There's a lot of activity here, so if anything else, I mean, that's city planning. So we get ahead of it and endorse the position and the person that's already been out there.
I'll second.
says that sounds like a motion.
Wasn't quite sure where we were going.
No, I did, yeah.
Can we add a caveat that the sidewalk program gets done before snow flies?
Our hope is spring, we could not find a concrete contractor interested in even having a discussion.
That's crazy. I'm just kidding.
I'll be happy if we get another payment from FEMA before the snow melts. That's our goal.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item, item 9, discussion and consideration of setting a public hearing date for an ordinance establishing precinct boundaries for the city of Mount Vernon, Iowa.
So there, obviously, with the national rhetoric, there's been changes to election law since the last time that Mount Vernon was faced with this. So we don't currently have a precinct ordinance, at least not one that I can find in the books. So when I verified with the Linn County Auditor's Office that we did in fact have to go through the process, he assured me that we did. So basically, we are going to have a public hearing on, if you remember, we kind of made a recommendation that number 3 to get Cornell all in one group was our recommendation. So they've created legal descriptions for those 2 precincts. The ordinance will have to adopt those 2 precincts as written. And that should be the only thing we have to do for the next 10 years. And then when the next census comes out, we'll have to do the process all over again. So if it seems out of the ordinary, and you looked at your ordinance book and you couldn't find anything, it's not there. This would be brand new to the city. Councilperson Rose did ask today about who selects the precinct sites. The auditor's office does. They try to stay with public buildings. City Hall, I would imagine, will always be one as long as we continue to meet ADA requirements. They did look at the LBC. There's some logistical problems there because we don't shut operations down, so there's a lot of moving parts. So they have been using, I believe, they have a church, and I have not heard they're going to change that anytime soon, but the auditor's office will make those decisions.
Okay, I'm horrible at maps. Would the Catholic Church be in the western boundary now?
It would be still considered south.
Right.
And
I mean, and I know your answer to the email was they figured it out, so it's not something we need to resolve now, but
yes.
it's just, you know.
Yes, both City Hall and the Catholic Church are both in the same location. So I did not ask the auditor's office if they're okay with that, or if they're just going to have to start searching. I mean, I know they've talked about the school as well, but from what, again, logistically, I don't know how to make that work.
Right.
So we could end up discussing the LBC as a possibility, but again, we're going to have to see whether or not we can make that work.
Unless there's other questions, I would move approval of the new precinct. No, we were setting a public hearing. Yeah. So set a public hearing for the next regularly scheduled council meeting.
November 29th?
No, it would be
So
December.
that's the first,
Oh, that's right.
December.
The first meeting in December.
Yes.
There you go.
6th.
Okay.
I'll second that November date.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10, discussion consideration of tree purchase / donation for parks and limited right-of-ways.
So I'm going to start this, and I'm going to have Ellen chime in so I don't get it wrong. But Mr. Royer has purchased part of the, I don't call it a tree farm.
John Peter,
Yeah.
there's like 40 acres out, I think that he bought from John before he passed away.
And they have, be west of town off of,
Irish Lane, right by the railroad tracks.
he has been in conversation with Eldon on donating and purchasing some of the trees that are out there. There are some hardwoods that would potentially work for the right-of-way areas, but there's a lot of pines that we can use around the public works site. Number one, to prevent people from driving around the gates, and number two, to build up a buffer before development finally makes its way up there. So, for every two that we purchase, you donate one.
Yep, he said every third tree he would donate.
Yeah. So, it wasn't necessarily part of some replanting program, it was just kind of circumstances that presented themselves, and if we can get a hold of a tree spade, we were gonna try and get as many trees as we potentially could. The two species of hardwoods that he has out there predominantly were, say locust.
He's got several oaks, some Kentucky coffee trees, sycamore.
So the issue is, are they on the list, on our list for their?
So they are not on the list of trees that should not be planted in the right of way. They're good hardwoods.
Because I
It's
know
just-
that list has some specifics, you know,
Yes,
in
yes,
terms of.
they are not on the prohibited.
Okay,
What are the size of these trees?
I mean,
3 inch, 2 inch?
He gave me a list with prices and different calibers. So, let's see, the oaks, you could go from 1.5 inch caliber, excuse me, and 12-foot tall, to 4 to 5 inch caliber, that's 14-foot high.
So what's that price range between those two?
160 to 500.
so the goal being, I mean, in this situation, the goal being to get maybe some of the mature trees to get kind of a head start, because a lot of what we're gonna get out of the nursery will be the smaller caliber trees. Ideally, I would have, recommended that we wait until we get more of the FEMA money back, but this is kind of one of those situations that's take advantage of it now. And so I think what we'll do is just track those expenses. It's not as if,
what's his schedule that he wants to be under?
He's been talking to me all year since spring day, and I'm just, it hasn't been anything on the forefront for me, because we hadn't even got all the other trees cleaned up.
Right.
So, it's kind of dragging my feet on it. Plus, it was really dry this summer, and I didn't want to try to water everything the whole time, and, they're already planted and where they're at, so.
for the most part, if we can hold off on a majority of them to spring, because a lot of the stumps have just been ground. We have not had an opportunity to speak to the individuals. It is our right of way, we can plant trees wherever we like, but we typically talk to everybody before we do. Now, the evergreens and some of the other trees that we wouldn't plant in the right of way, that we would plant out at Public Works, could happen sooner. I feel a little bit safer about getting those in there and not fighting trees that were just being, stumps were just ground. So, probably all the way through summer.
So start in the spring through the summer, that's what you're saying, regardless of where they're going.
Some may happen this fall, but those would likely be the public works site if we do.
We're getting
Yeah,
pretty
we're getting
late.
pretty late.
Yeah.
So, we did have a decent amount of rain in the last month, so the moisture in the ground is pretty decent, but again, I don't have a lot of staff to spare right at the moment either, with the pickup and everything, so, it depends on how patient Mr. Roger is. But ideally, like I said, we're gonna plant we have 3 trees in the downtown, we're gonna try and plant in the spring. Majority of these trees, I hope that we would be able to plant in the spring / early summer.
So who's our resident expert on, for, if we decide to buy the larger trees, a $500 investment, how big does the hole need to be? What does it need to be fed, What kind of supports do we
We would
need?
we would likely hire a service
Okay,
that has the spade to come out and do this for us. We could
but then
rent one.
also to consult with us about,
Yeah, we could rent one and our staff could do it, but again, I don't have a tree expert by any means on staff anymore. And so I think what we've talked about is, number one, I don't have a staff spare. Two, somebody that does this for a living knows a lot better than we do on whether or not the tree's gonna make it if we try to take one of the bigger caliber trees. So our thought is to work out a deal with one of those businesses to come in and transplant.
because that's my thought, and since we're not going out and getting them from a nursery or something, where you would normally get that, how would you about that?
Well, and if I recall some of our conversations shortly after the derecho, show, the concern was that with the number of communities that experienced the exact same thing we did, that finding anything local was going to be a serious challenge. So if we can, and shop local, for lack of a better term, and not have to worry about the shipping, and have somebody right here who can maybe help on some of that sort of information, I don't see any reason not to. Because we got to buy the tree before we do it, so eventually.
It is nice to be able to transport larger trees less than a mile.
Yeah.
So,
In terms of this motion, are you looking for not to exceed or what?
no, I don't even have a not to exceed number for you at the moment. If I were to give you one, I would throw out like 30 grand just to get us kick-started. First of all, I wanted to make sure that you were okay with us pursuing this, at least letting Mr. Royer know that, yes, we were planning to buy trees. But keep in mind, just like the tree removal, the amounts are always going to be significant. So, we could start at 30,000 and then I can come back to you if that number is needing to be more, and we can tell you what we bought for 30,000. And ask you to trust that we're not going to go out and buy 20 trees at 30 grand. That's what the deal is. So we'll try to get a fairly decent list of what species we're going to get for that dollar amount and where we would end up taking them.
And I honestly think the biggest bang for our buck is going to be using a mid-sized tree spade. With a mid-sized tree that is a little bit more manageable, we can transplant them quicker. For a number of different reasons, but like Chris said, we could rent a 40-inch spade that would do, a 2-inch tree perfectly fine, but then again, we have to find time to do it and that sort of thing. I did talk to Seth with Total Tree Care. He directed me in Lewis Brothers Tree Farm out of Oxford. He said they have a number of different size spades and may be interested in that, so I'm trying to get in contact with them. I haven't been very successful. However, I can get some better numbers for you guys later and try to organize something. And to add to that, late fall is actually the best time to transplant most species of trees. And essentially, you turn them into popsicles before it freezes. Just soak them down really well, and then in the springtime, they just take off. But I have a fair amount of knowledge of the tree stuff myself, but I'm getting more every time I talk to somebody. But I don't know if that helps out at all.
Is this deal good for residents too? I mean, would this carry over, like, if somebody wanted to put one inside, they've lost trees within their property area, is this deal good for them?
You can make contact with Mr. Royer on their own, but no, not through the city.
Not through the city? And another thing, in July before the derecho show, I had all those walnuts cut down and I replaced it with a scant blend from Fleming, and that needs a lot. You need to water the crud out of those things. I mean, so you really need to get over with the homeowner and say, hey, because there's no way we can water this. The homeowner's going to have to do some watering.
Yeah, and again, it was all intended to be kind of part of a replanting program. We'll utilize the bags. And we do have a tank that we can drive around. Again, why we kind of want to do a limited number at first, because if we can't convince the homeowner to do it, then we're going to have to take our tanker around and fill those bags on a fairly regular basis. But managing 50 trees versus managing 150 trees is something that I feel fairly confident in. And so that's kind of the starting point. It's one of those things where it kind of fell into our lap. It wasn't really, we were out looking for it. And of course, now we have a bunch of tree stumps that have just gotten drowned out. So everybody gets really excited. Get one step done and hey,
Now,
let's get it replanted, let's go. And so at least this shows progress towards that.
Right, I guess what I'd like to see is just a little bit more thought. Kind of a thinking plan of, you've articulated it, but let's come prepared with the total program, if you will. So X amount of trees at Public Works, X amount for boulevards, blah. How much does this going to cost? What staff look like to support this tree program? I'm all for it, but I want us to come in with our eyes wide open.
And that's fine. I think for us, we just wanted to basically give Mr. Royer an answer that, yes, we are interested, and no, we're not at this point.
And I also I wanted to focus a lot more on the parks. The public works facility is great to throw some stuff out there too. But I haven't I've touched base with Sarah and Matt a little bit on it, but I want to go through the parks and figure out, Nature Park, for instance, lost a lot of trees. And kind of figure out where we want to put things and what we're looking at putting there. So it's kind of a hurry up offense, or has been, and I've been struggling trying to find resources and accomplish what everybody wants to do. So yeah, it's a little early in the stage, but I agree, having a plan and knowing what our numbers are
I think it's tough though to expect homeowners to water trees and pay the water bill.
Yeah, and again, the bags do work pretty
You'd be
well.
surprised if they want a tree back.
But I just wouldn't rely on it.
That's true.
Yeah, no, I think
Several.
I think regardless, even if the homeowners do water on their own, those bags are kind of a godsend. And so whether or not they fill them up or we fill them up, at least they're visible and we can, spend a half a day driving around with the tanker and filling it up if we need to. There's conversations that this council is going to have when it comes time to planting based upon how many we will plant. Is there a credit that you would like to give on a water bill for a month or two, or we're trying to reestablish? So again, this was kind of we at least need to give Mr. Royer an answer that we're interested, so he's not selling them. I don't necessarily need a motion at this point, nodding the heads and I believe is giving me direction. At least we can approach him and say, yes, we are interested. And now we can go back in and say, yes, we would love to have 10 of that species and 10 of that caliber, and then we can put a cost to everything. In the meantime, hopefully we'll be able to work out a deal with an individual that has a tree spray that will give us a better idea. And so, yeah, I mean, the northwest and the southwest were probably the hardest hit when it comes to established trees. So I would concentrate efforts there and make over on.
Yes, I'm interested in pursuing it as well. Isn't there a line program that you worked with Laura last year? I mean, are those only for homeowners, and those are like a 1-inch tree? I mean, it's like a totally different type of tree, or is there any coordination here?
There are a ton of programs out there right now. So Alliance pushing the replanting, DNR is pushing a program, Lake County Conservation is pushing programs. So there's plenty of programs out there. We just didn't have, with all the stumps that were still existing, we couldn't really take advantage of them without putting them in opposite places. But yeah, I think for the next probably 3 or 4 years, there's going to be plenty of programs out there.
We do have a little bit of money from the branching out grant that we won this last year, but that will go towards spring right-of-way trees as well. That's different from, that's not good.
We have a lot of trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The public just every now and then.
I like the idea of moving forward with more formal planning with him. And Elton, you might find out there's a certain area, there's a certain type of tree you prefer to have that he doesn't have, and you might have to block out, you know, we're gonna have to get that one somewhere else, whatever it is. But
For
I
sure.
like the idea of having a more formal.
The only thing I can say is our goal would be to try and limit the amount of maples that we replant. And
Why is that?
that is because, well, because maples are a fairly fast-growing tree, which is great, except in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, that's all that got planted.
Mhm.
So, you know, if you think about it, and you talk to a true tree person, there was, of course, there's emerald ash borer, and then there was Dutch elm disease before it. I mean, so should something start to affect maples, if you drive around our community at all, it would be a really big deal. The ash borer was a big enough deal for us, because we had to, you know, essentially remove those trees. If we have to remove maples because of some disease, it's much more catastrophic event for us. So diversifying the tree canopy is kind of the way to move forward.
But they got a lot of engineered.
They do, they have, you know,
Very, very.
there's even an engineered ash tree now that's not susceptible to ash borer.
Okay, anybody else? All right, next item, discussion and consideration of membership referral marketing program at the LPC.
So, LBC staff, now that we are getting back to the point of memberships are coming off of being frozen, things of that nature, Matt floated the idea of giving every current member, annual member, two-day passes for free, to try and encourage them to bring friends, relatives, family that might in turn turn into an actual membership. So we've asked Matt to be here. I mean, it's really kind of a basic program that does obviously mean that two daily admissions per member would be $10. So
We don't know whether they bring a child or an adult, or a senior, so we just go on maximum dollar amount. We're finding that 80% of people, we've been tracking, 80% of people that come in the building get a membership right now. That's a great percentage for us, but we gotta get people to the building. This is one way we thought we could entice our current members to get their family, friends, whoever are our current members involved, and possibly getting in the building. So
80% of walk-ins?
current walk-ins are coming to do a tour. It's a great percentage. Anybody that comes in and does a tour, they're just amazed by what we have to offer inside the building, and we turn that into membership. Whether it's a 1 month, 3 month, or annual, we haven't separated that out, but we just know they purchase a membership. So again, we could do a newspaper marketing campaign that might cost us, anywhere from $250 to $400 in a week. Or we could utilize our members and capitalize on this, and the cost of that would be, so we have a holiday card that we always send out to members, and we're going to put the 2 passes on that and send that to our annual members. And that would be, it's basically coupled with a mailing we're already doing, so there's no additional real cost to us. So.
and annual members, we have 500 and
We have 375 annual members, 12-month memberships, and we have 200 other categories. So 375 people or families or households will be receiving this. So that's a huge number as well. If we get even just 10% of that back, it's a win-win for us.
Is there any reason that we wouldn't send it out to everybody after the post as an annual?
So we're trying to collaborate with a membership renewal program and trying to reward our annual members. So we could surely send it out to everybody if that's something that wanted.
Yeah, I wouldn't know why you wouldn't want to
I
cast it.
We can't lose.
Cast a wide net.
So we were trying to couple it with rewarding our members, our annual members for that commitment. So
Because I mean, the whole idea is to get more members and to
it
send it out to
is.
everybody.
It is.
it'd basically be $5,000 to $6,000 in lost revenue total if everybody took advantage.
And that's every.
And we didn't get any
But
memberships.
the goal is to get people in that wouldn't come in otherwise.
So
Yeah.
it was just something that, in the conversation, I think it's a good idea. That's
Well,
just-
we're always trying to find ways to reward our annual members because of that commitment, the 12-month commitment. And so this was one way that we just thought we could do that. Giving them 2 guest lists. Because people are always asking, hey, can we bring in a friend for free, or can we do this? And we don't have that currently in our policy, so this is a way for them to respond to that, so.
So do the members that hand them off, if those people join, do those members get anything for the referral? I mean, I
Yeah,
know
That's how I kind of read it too.
referral program.
Yeah,
That
it
was.
was-
You get a big smile and a handshake from me.
Okay, well then,
That's
there's
all
We
you
were in
need.
a staff meeting, and it was sort of a, it's kind of a hybrid membership referral program. It isn't a full-fledged membership referral program, so we haven't quite got that. That would probably cost us a lot more
Yeah.
money to do.
Yeah.
So that's why we twisted it and said, well, maybe we're not ready for that yet, because we're still recovering. But maybe, we're just trying to find a way to get people through the door.
You're giving them a gift to pass on.
Yeah, exactly. Rewarding them for being an annual member was our key.
Yeah.
We could reward any member, that's fine. But we're trying to reward our annual members because they've made that commitment. And we don't have a lot of ways to do that within our arsenal. So we're trying to do that just through a creative way, this promotion. So if council would want to approve giving a pass to every member, I'm fine with that too. I have no problems with that whatsoever. And we're going to track it, so if somebody turns it in, we'll track it, if they've utilized it, and so we know there won't be any duplication or anything of that nature. Probably have some numbers on it.
Would it be difficult to track giving 2 to annual people and giving 1 to the other people? Would that be
No, because we
difficult?
plan on probably putting a number on those. So once that number is turned in, we'll have it log, and obviously the second one is turned in, we'll see the log when it's not. So, no, it would not, it would just be 2 for annual and 1 for 1 month, 3 month.
Because I know Jamie, if you're gonna do it, why not cast a wider net? I think it's a good idea. I think given where we've been, we gotta get people in the doors. And that 80% is pretty,
I could send it to every Mount Vernon household if you want, or we could send it to Mount Vernon-Lisbon, Sullivan, Springfield if you want. That's what we started, that's what we started.
but I like, I mean, the issue is you're putting it in something that's going into the mail otherwise, right?
Yeah,
So
correct.
postage
Well,
already-
yeah, correct, yes.
So postage is already paid for.
Yeah, those are,
You're not having
there's
to
no loss to us. Yeah, right.
And usership is obviously starting to steadily incline at this time of year as it is, and we do, based upon new memberships and people coming back to the building, we're fairly confident in hitting the goals that we had kind of established pre-COVID, which is pretty good because COVID's still a topic of conversation right now. So, yeah, this is a marketing program that doesn't have necessarily any upfront costs, and to be quite honest with you, in a roundabout way, could essentially cover the existing funds that we have at the building. So it's a fairly inexpensive way to market the building, probably one that's going to be most effective.
We have 3 F's, the LBC, that get people in the door. Free, food, and fun activities. And those 3 things have brought people through the door. We did the school, when we did the school, back to school day, we had 120-some people come through our door. And we've seen the reciprocation of that since that day, for those individuals come back in their membership. So, we gave away, walking tacos that day. So we ran out of food. We had so many people come, so.
Need to be redeemed by an adult, an economic buyer, someone that, I mean, so that young families aren't just giving them to their kids, and you end up having a slew more grade school kids who are there.
Yeah, that's
The
going to be
idea
a
was
part.
that
That's
it's
going to
redeemed
be,
by an adult
yeah.
who was a.
I mean, we could put on there that need to be redeemed by an adult only, yes. Yeah, because that's a big part. We don't put something like that on there.
Although times.
I was going to say, there's no better salesman than a 12-year-old.
I was just gonna say, my son, invites his buddy to play basketball, and the buddy's like, hey, Mom, we gotta go join this place so I can play basketball.
Now, we just have to be careful, because when a 9-year-old come up, then we have to turn them away, so.
Yeah.
And we have to have a waiver sign as well, so that's the other trick is, even though a 12-year-old might come in the building, we still need to have that waiver sign before they can enter. Or be a part of it, so.
That's the right thing. Good idea.
Any other questions? Otherwise, entertain a motion.
I move approval of the LBC referral program.
2 and 1.
Hmm?
2 and 1.
2019 wastewater treatment plant improvement project.
So the retainage is in the amount of $83,216.91. We're getting this project done just in time to start the next one.
I'll move approval of the payment of the retainage for the 2019 wastewater treatment plant improvement. $83,216.91.
I will second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Move on to reports. Chief, anything from your report, sir?
Nothing additional unless you get questions.
Any questions for Chief? Going once, twice. Sorry, Chief.
That's okay.
Next item, operating public works. Any questions for Eldon?
Thanks for sending it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't rely on Chris on it.
I did forget to add something in there. I know we previously discussed what to do with Bryant Road, the accesses to the site out there. I forgot to put it in my report. I did talk to Atlantic Energy. They're going to stick a complicated. On the far west end, where the transmission line is kind of 90, there's a lot of stuff on the pole, so they'll have to set a new pole inside our property line. But on that pole, then we can put a meter socket, cameras, lights, whatever we want. On the other two accesses to the east of that, they're gonna put a light on the existing poles. So we'll have light on all three accesses. They're supposed to start that work this week. Are they? Yeah. So, I touched base a little bit with RC Tech to kind of see what our options were for cameras, because we don't have internet out there, obviously. And they said, I don't have numbers or anything from them yet, they're supposed to get back to me. As long as they have power, they can put a number of different cameras up there, that were they kind of be like your cell phone, this is a tower read, that would be accessible to Chief and myself, and I suppose Chris at City Hall. I haven't gotten that far yet, but they are putting some power out there and some lights. So hopefully that'll deter some people from going in when they're not supposed to. We're on the road to getting at least some televised.
I assume we'll put signs up saying smiley or on camera type stuff.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Before I have a couple questions. Who's putting the white flags on a metal stake in people's yards?
That's me.
Okay, what's the purpose?
For the emergency snow route signs.
Okay. It's not, I didn't receive anything that notified me. I pulled them out 4 times because I choose not to mow over them.
Yes,
So,
that's fine.
I'm so
Put it back
sorry.
in.
But my neighbors also don't know that that's what's going on. So
Gotcha.
if there was to be notification, there was none.
They're only supposed to be in there for as long as the one call's in there, because I have to mark them to get the locates done. It's been kind of a chore to try to get that done. And I finally got all the addresses, called in today, at the end of the day, I finally sent it out. So 48 hours, and then we can start putting the signs in. I have them all. I don't know, if we lose the flags, we lose the flags, but I have all the addresses down.
I just wanted somebody to claim the fact that you almost messed up my lawnmower. Okay? And with no notification. Then the other thing is there been any conversation about elongating the leaf pickup routine, as we had a very elongated leaf fall? Because isn't this week supposed to be the last week?
This is supposed to be the last week. It's dependent on what it looks like at the end of this week, so we typically do 7 weeks. Now, what we tell individuals, it's a kind of a catch-22. Number one, if we elongate it without a purpose, people grow accustomed to us doing that. So if we are that far behind, if we have a mechanical failure or something like that, we will elongate it. We have kind of the week of Thanksgiving. If not, typically we do 2 to 3 weeks in the spring as well. For us, it makes more sense. The more leaves that we can get in the fall, the easier it is for us because the spraying is, they're much more difficult to obviously pick up and grab. I have not extended the leaf program yet. And what I typically do is get down to Thursday and Friday and see where Eldon's at. But stay tuned, but as of right now, the chances are probably not. They're making pretty good progress, but
I was responding to the incredible wind that we had. That,
Yep.
a lot fell.
correct. Yeah, it's just a matter of, and every year with leaf program is different. This year, they seem to drop all at once. Last year, it seemed to drop really fast, and then the trees that had their leaves didn't drop them at all until after we ended the program. So it's kind of a crapshoot. But yeah, we've had no less than a few dozen calls.
So are they doing quadrants, or are they just kind of driving around, making sure? Because if somebody doesn't get it, like if you've just done the southwest quadrant, and then somebody rakes it up, and it ends Friday, they're screwed till spring.
Yeah, I mean, we always run that risk, and we put that information out there as much as humanly possible, but, we have people say, well, I've had them out there for 2 weeks, and I've driven by there the day before, and then for a fact I watched them raking.
Do we have days set for southwest, northwest,
They usually start in one quadrant on Monday and make their way. They can get it done in 3 days. It's-
That was published in the newsletter. I do remember seeing that.
Yeah.
But, to Deb's point, I do support you to just reevaluate it at the end.
Yeah, we do every year, and like I said, part of it has to do with staffing. If I have the staff to, the setup, and I give them a lot of kudos because they maneuvered that machine so only one individual has to operate it, which is awesome from my perspective. But yeah, it depends on whether or not we have the staff prior to Thanksgiving, and then of course how much are we behind? Are we right on schedule? So, and again, I tell people all the time, it behooves us, if we can, to try and get as many leaves in the fall. But I will tell you, we do have an individual that walks it every year. And so they keep track of exactly how long and when we start and stop. And will call us out on the program either direction. So we get a lot of help.
I was just generally asking because.
No, but yes,
last weekend.
yeah, and we do, my house looked great until this weekend,
Yeah, I know.
and now it looks awful again. So, yeah.
Eldon, anything else?
Well, in the past, I swear every year it's different since I've been here. There's always been a different variable in play. This year it was so dry, the trees were stressed out and they started dropping early. And then we got a whole bunch of rain and the trees said, whoa, I want to keep those. So they're holding on. It hasn't been very cold, and so I think that's what's going on this year. But we tentatively put, I don't know about tentatively even, but I know when Nick and I put the program together, we picked those months that are, or time, those 7 weeks that are probably most indicative of leaves falling. So,
Right. Yep.
in the past, since I've been here, since I've started, we've had snow. The second week of leaf pickup, we've, had major freezing. There's always different things coming up. So I don't know if we can slide that 7 weeks one way or another sometimes. I don't have a problem with that. But if we say the 7 weeks, I guess we stick to the program and we'll see where we're at. And I'm not opposed to, I told the guys today, this is the last week. There's no plan to extend yet. But let's see what it looks like at the end of the week. It is easier to pick up this time of year than it is in the spring when they're wet and packed down and that sort of thing. And I'm not opposed to even say next week if people got a bunch of piles put together, random. It's not like you're hitting the whole town, but obviously some people have more trees.
Yeah, you know, he can hit the community in 2 days if it's
Yeah.
not, significant piles everywhere.
Well, that's like, that was the other thing I was gonna mention. When they first start falling and leaves are light, Jacob usually takes that out, he can hit the whole town in 2 days. And I don't have a bunch of staff getting thrown at it, it's one guy, and he's doing a pretty good job. As that slowly, again, it's not the same every year, progresses, and we get a lot of, you know, heavy leaf fall, then he'll slow down. I shouldn't say slow down, he can't keep up as much, then we're closer to our scheduled time that we have allotted for in the program, that's labeled in the program. And if you can't keep up with that, then we get the other leaf act going, and that's what we did do last week. We got both leaf acts out, we got caught up, and that sort of thing. So it's kind of a crapshoot half the time.
I will say we have more flexibility now, central staff, obviously, that are doing the program. I would be less likely to extend the program with Foster if we pay for the extension. So, and even, you know, I give Foster a lot of kudos back when they were doing the new program, because they would make adjustments as well and would work over Thanksgiving holidays and things like that. And, you know, Public Works guys all, you know, we're going to work on Veterans Day in order to keep up with everything, and then ended up making some significant progress. So, yeah, to answer your question, that was a very long-winded answer, but yes, we will make adjustments based on what we're seeing. And I'm doing this strictly for the mayor's benefit for the next 2 meetings.
As part of that.
Yeah, all those hospitals.
Excellent. With that said, now we have to go to Matthew, so we'll be here for another hour. Matthew, anything from your report?
Nothing to add, sir.
Jacob is here, and I did send that report out as well. Any questions for the ambulance department?
Jacob, anything you want to highlight or anything for the council?
No, nothing that's not on the report, so.
Jake, glad to see 5 new members who went to orientation, that is great.
Yeah, so that was out of 16 applications, so
Wow,
yeah, pretty fortunate. So.
Wow,
fantastic job. It's amazing how it's changed, evolved.
yeah.
Kudos.
Nice job.
Okay, move on to council vacancy procedures, Chris.
I included the procedures in with you. It's not anything that's earth-shattering right now, and you can't take any action on it currently. Basically, what will happen when Tom becomes, or before he's sworn in as mayor, he'll have to resign his council seat. And at that time, the council will have the option to appoint or call for a special election. There can also be a petition for a special election. There's 2 periods for that too. They can do it almost immediately. They can do it, I think, within 10 days after an appointment is made. So there's a lot of things that will need to happen, but unfortunately, it won't happen until after January 1. But I wanted to get the information in front of you just to let you know that there will be one of the first orders of business for the council members that carry over after January will be appointing for the remainder of
Should this be sent to Paul as well?
yeah, so I'm working on getting.
I mean, there's plenty of time. But
Yes. Paul's email, and he will be included on the next 2 council packets just to keep continuity as we move forward.
Anybody have any questions? All right, move on to reports. I just want to mention, obviously, congrats to those who were elected or in some cases re-elected. So fantastic. For our wonderful community and their great leadership. So kudos to obviously staff, Paul, everybody. I'll cry a few tears in a couple of weeks, but I'll survive. So anybody else have anything else from a report standpoint to share? Bueller, Chris?
Just our employee recognition will be on December 17th. We typically do closed city hall at least for an hour and a half to 2 hours while we do that. We have it at City Hall, but just wanted to give you plenty of notice that we typically close down for that 2-hour period over lunch hour for that program. And of course, we're closed for the Thanksgiving holiday, Thursday and Friday, 25th and 26th. Other than that, we have that last happening, we're going to be extremely busy for the next year and a half, if not 2 years. Buffalo.
Buckle up, Tom. All right, anybody else? Miss anything? Can we go back? No further business, we can stand adjourned.
Yeah.
Recording stopped.